Hello everyone, my name is Megha, and as you can see, Siddharth has told a lot of things about me. So my name is Megha. I'm a Windows Insider MVP and also a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador Gold. So I basically work on emerging technologies as a whole, but my area of interest is basically into Azure and Azure underrated resources which are not even like known to a lot of people. So I come up with all those kinds of resources and all of these kinds of technology so that I can share it with all of the students around the world. So okay, so here is something about me. You can go ahead, you can tag me on LinkedIn, you can have a chat on Twitter or anywhere where you like. So yeah, there's a little bit about me, and let's get started with our topic. So today we are going to learn about static web apps, Azure Static Web Apps. So how many of you know about Azure Static Web Apps? You can raise your hand if you know. Let's see the response. And based upon that, I can uh, judge how to explain everything. Great. So I got only one. Impressive. No worries. All right. So first of all, a simple example of what Azure Static Web Apps says is that it is a service that will automatically create a full stack web app for you from the code repository, which is in your GitHub or maybe at your Azure DevOps project. Okay. So there are basically two things that we have to be aware about. The first is deploy, and the second is manage, and the third is how your workflow is going on, which is very much optional. You don't have to worry about it because Azure as a whole has a lot of resources like defenders, authenticators, firewalls that will secure your data, and you don't have to worry about the security. You just have to focus on how to build and how to deploy your code repository and give it a final look. Okay, now we are going to learn about Azure Static Web Apps with two of the basic things. The first is the GitHub Actions, and the second is the Azure DevOps pipeline. So Azure DevOps pipelines are not so much usable these days because they have some kind of pipelines which require us to have you know a an authentication. So first you have to be approved for the parallelism, and then you will be able to host a pipeline, and then you will be able to uh, host your static web app on your web. So basically we are going to work on the Azure Actions only, and then we'll have a little bit of demo about Azure DevOps. Right. Okay. There are multiple key features of Azure Static Web Apps. The first is web hosting. So it allows you, it creates a platform where you can host your own website or maybe your simple, easy go HTML code on the server, which is like a serverless, because you don't have to worry about the storage, about the data being used and how it is stored, but you are only focusing on what you have transferred to the Azure Static Web App. The second is integrated web API. Now, whenever there is a change into your GitHub repository, there would be a call from the Azure Web Apps, and these changes would be automatically displayed on the final web app page in minimum of few minutes, which is very, very interesting. So you have a call, API call, you just have to push a kind of code into your repository, your GitHub repository, and the final destination where you have hosted the web apps will automatically give it a change. So it has a first class GitHub and Azure DevOps integration. Yes, absolutely, because you can just have a click, and yeah, you have launched a website on the web, which is very, very kind of easy and globally distributed. Obviously, you have multiple areas where you can host your own web page, or maybe you can say a static web app. You have multiple locations, and there is also a kind of feature known as disaster recovery. So whenever you have a site down at a particular place, there would be some at some place or some region where your site is still working, due to which you will not have a loss of data and a loss of information to the final consumer. Okay. Now, about the security, it has free SSL certificates, which are quite useful whenever you have an authenticator, whenever you have to uh, share a data to a person who is quite worried about the data or about their security. Okay, we'll see about it in the next few demos. And yeah, obviously we have custom domains. So if you want to have a domain not in the form of Azure Static Web Apps, like they usually host it in the form of multiple names like Jolly LLB or maybe something like that. So you can create your own custom domain. You can have your own formatted kind of custom domains through which whenever a person clicks on there, they would be finally opted to a page and they can work out there. Okay, so authentication provider and seamless security model. Now, Azure, as everybody knows, it has a feature which is top class for security, and you don't have to worry about anything related to the security. So you have just a pile of codes, you have to work on it, and security is managed by Azure, which is very interesting whenever we go ahead and we start working on all of these kinds of features and the demo. Now, uh, I hope I'm getting everything. People are getting everything easy, easy and peasy. But once again, when we have a demo, a lot of people would be able to understand. So, do you have a question or not? Let's check. Okay, no questions. Great. Now, Azure Static Web Apps can be used for a lot of things. One such is that the JavaScript frameworks. Well, we can start from scratch. We will have a simple HTML file which has JavaScript and CSS as a whole. We are not going into Angular, React, and every kind of things because we want to know how it can work for your simple resume. You all are students, and some people are like they want to have a static web app for having a simple kind of website. So let's suppose I have a website called as my resume. Okay. Now it has only JavaScript, a little bit of JavaScript for like dynamic moving, CSS and HTML. How am I able to host this kind of web app onto the Azure server, and how I'm going to manage it? We are going to see later on. So we have features like we can use any kind of JavaScript framework, Angular, React, Vue, Blazor, and many more. And the static data is Gatsby, Hugo, and WordPress, which is like uh, the start where we are going to host it. And we have these kinds of frameworks as well. With the help of these, we can have a YAML file, and we can, with the help of DevOps, we can have a YAML file and we can publish it on the Azure Static Web App with more its authentication and security. And we have frameworks like Next.js and Next.js. Because about this, we are going to learn in future, because I think it would be a little bit broad, because our basic is that we have to work on a simple HTML website. Okay. Now, the second is manage. Once we create our static web app, the second thing is that we have to look upon how to manage our web app. Now, there is a statical data which is presented in your static web app that lets you know that at how much time and when there was a number of people being visiting your website at a particular time, how what was the intensity and what was the latency of the website whenever it was loading and receiving a response from the user, which is quite insightful, because through which we are able to know and we are able to discover how we can create a more easy kind of website, or maybe we have an integration over there so that it is quite easy for people to access. Let's suppose I have a company website, an e-commerce website, where people come, enter, and then they buy a product, and they are opted to a next page, which is the payment gateway. Okay. Now, the difference, the time between connecting from the payment gateway to our own website is around 1.5 minutes, which is quite a long for a people to for these kinds of people, where we have a lot of technologies. So I want to reduce this. With the help of application and sites, I can check what was the actual time between which people were able to opt from a payment gateway to my own website. So with the help of this, we can manage, we can configure, and we can recreate everything. Now, there are three things. We have SWA Static Web App Command Line Interface, due to which we can have our own website launched or hosted with minimum codes, less kind of more security and less kinds of codes. You don't have to worry about how to go ahead with the Azure portal, but you can go inside your own Azure Visual Studio Code, and you can publish it over directly on the Azure Static Web App page. Now, the Azure API requests are quite active over here, because whenever you push anything, whenever you try to connect your database with your web page, it is quite easy and manageable, because you have a set of data, you have a set of database, what is going to be called at what time. You have everything, every data at your web page in one click, which we are going to learn in the next demo. Okay, so we have a simple kind of demo. I'm going to share you a link, and I hope you can work together. So this is my GitHub profile, and I want you to check this particular small demo. Okay, so this is a small demo, as you can see over here. Actually, we are not going to work on this. This is just a sample. As you see, this is the simple repository, and this was the workflow which I created. Now, once I opt into the Azure portal, I have to search for Azure Static Web Apps. Okay, once I click over there, I have all the resources which I have created, all the static web apps which I have created. Now, the file which I sent, or the repository which I sent you, was the actual repository over here, which is the small demo. I named it together so that people don't have to be confused. Now you see the URL over here. As you can see, it is proud pond, something like that. We can change it to a custom domain. We can have our own kind of domain, where you can change this prod font into our own kind of simplified domain name. Okay, or maybe a link. So once you click over there, it's a kind of demo where once you enter the location, or maybe once you allow your web page to open, they will let you know the latitudinal and longitudinal distance in which you are located right now. Okay, so do give it a try, and I'm also going to open it over here. Okay, so here you go. Now, since I have not used a lot of authenticators over here, and I have a Microsoft Defender Smart Screen on my laptop, so it does not allow me to open this particular website, which is quite normal for all of it, because it ends with .NET kind of thing. But still, we are going to open it because it's totally secure. Don't worry about it. So once we go over there, I click on the get location page, and yeah, I have received the location, the latitudinal and longitudinal distance to which I am located right now. So this, you can try it at your home as well. I have a simple video posted on YouTube, which I will be sharing the link later on in the chat. Now the same thing we are going to create over here as well. Okay, So if you have time, you can create an empty repository as well. Go ahead with me. Let's suppose I have this DevOps demo, which is like it has a YAML pipeline, an index, a script, and style basis. Okay. Now what I will do is I have to remove this. The reason is that because once I uh, once I have this, I won't be able to create my own static web apps. The first and foremost thing is that your HTML file index should be named as index.html. Then only the Azure Static Web App will be able to detect there is a HTML file over there. Okay. Now what I will do is I'll open it in my GitHub desktop. Once open, I can clone over here. Okay. And I'll open it in my Visual Studio Code. Now, other thing that you have to be aware about is that you should have an Azure extension downloaded over here, which will help you to directly look for static web apps from the resources. Okay. Now I clicked over here to Azure, and I will have multiple resources which I can use. So I have an subscription. If you guys are working on Azure portal, you will have a simple kind of subscription which is given like $150. If you want to know how to get it, I'll share you the links later on with a set of all the things which are involved in creating this static web app. Okay. Now I'll click on static web apps because I want to create one of those, and create a new static web app. Now for advanced, what I have to do is there will be multiple options. For a simple static web app, I have to just push my repository into the Azure portal. Okay, I'll click on this, and I want to name it as DevOps demos only. Okay, the location that I am going to use is East Asia because I've been using it. And now the configuration or the structure of project is HTML and none other than these. So I'm going to use the HTML, and about the location, I will be doing is an empty and empty by default. Okay. Now what it will do is it will take a little bit of time. It will create a web app on the location East Asia. Okay. In the meantime, we can go back to our portal and we can see what is going on over here. Oh, there is a failure, and the reason is that because it was an Azure pipeline. Now you can see, as you can see, this Azure Static Web App workflow is going on with the help of Azure GitHub Actions, and it's working. Once it is pushed properly, what will happen is that I will be able to view a resource over here on the Azure Static Web Apps. There would be a page known as DevOps demos. Like it's created, it's working, and the default hostname over here is Redstone. So whenever I click over there, I would be opted to a page where I can view my website. Okay. Okay, let's check. Oh, it's succeeded. So we can check over there. So I'll open it over here. Once again, we get an option because of some authentication problem. So this was the page which I was actually trying to launch. So you can play tic-tac-toe over there. So feel free to play or whenever you are free. Okay. So I gave you a link and do try. I have this whole repository for you guys. So if you want to do it with the help of this repository, feel free to do it. And or if you want to create your own simple website, maybe your resume, you can go ahead with this also. Any questions that you wanted to ask so that we can move into Azure DevOps as well? Well, this Azure DevOps would be a simple, a demo where I will not be taking any kind of repository. I'll just have a dummy website, and with the help of that, I'm going to create it. Okay. All right, let's go. So for this, for a simple static web app with the help of DevOps, we are going to click on Create. And I want to name my static web app as web. Now, the drawbacks. The first and foremost drawback for these Azure static web apps is that if you have multiple programs or maybe multiple web pages running on the same day, so you created a multiple web pages on same day, like 5 to 6 and or beyond, you won't be able to publish it with the help of static web apps. This is a drawback because even though it's not written somewhere, but I have experiences, and once you do it, you will get a notification of these kinds of things. So if you are working on it, try to be leveraged or try to be limited to only 3 of them. Okay, so for deployment details, I'm going to use the Azure DevOps, and I'm going to name it as DevOps demo. A resource is already created based on that subscription. So a new resource is always created when you are going to create a static web apps, though you can feel free to create your opt for a different resource by yourself, but it is preferably
Hey Megha, are you there? Hello. Is it only me
Uh,
who cannot hear Megha or?
no, we also cannot hear.
Okay,
We
okay.
cannot hear.
I think we lost her.
Yeah, yeah. I'll just let us take a couple of minutes. Probably she'll join back. Till then, we
Okay,
can play.
looks to be, yeah. Oh, yes, it is. Go ahead.
Yes. No, sorry. I was saying till then we can play the tic tac toe.
Yeah, I guess that might be the provision why she pasted the link. Okay,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, she's
we are
back.
waiting for her to
Hi,
join back.
Megha. Meanwhile,
I'm audible
we were
to you
enjoying
guys.
the TikTok. Oh, yes, you're audible. Yes, Megha, we're able to hear you. And now not. Hi, Megha. Sorry, I'm not able to hear you. Siddharth, is it working for you?
No, no.
No, not
I
as well.
think
Yeah.
Still
none of
not
us
audible.
are able to hear.
Okay. Okay.
Something is
Okay,
coming up.
I think, yeah.
Am I audible?
Yeah, now you're
Yes, you
audible.
are audible now. Yes. Yeah, even we
Okay,
can
this
see your
is the
screen.
first part in an online event, I guess.
No
Yeah.
problem, but please feel free to continue. Yeah.
This is very
Okay,
common, right?
sure.
Every time you're trying to
Yeah,
demo something.
yeah. Okay. So we are going to, once we opted for the static web apps, we are going to create a simple static web app over there with the help of DevOps. And again, with I'm not going to take any kind of DevOps project over here because I want to create a simple and maybe with no repository web app, which is quite easy once you go into it. So I opted for a project. I think it's not available right now. I'll have to refresh it once again. Okay, so let's uh, I will use as an option of deployment as Azure DevOps. Here I go with the organization and project. Now I have multiple projects on my DevOps page. So I'll be using a simple one, which is demo for Azure Global, which is an empty one, and the branch is main. Now there would be multiple branches once you integrate your, uh, GitHub repository with Azure DevOps page, okay, with one of the projects that you want to have. Now over here, I will uh, look for build details because I most probably I used an HTML file, so I'll be using as this. And for app location, I won't be using anything because I want the location to be as main only, a main branch. Okay. Now I can go with review and create. Okay. And yeah, we have created over there. So once it validates everything in your static web app, it will be submitting for a deployment. Okay. Now it's done over here. I can check the workflow, and yeah, obviously there would be an error because the workflow pipeline will be interrupted because I don't have any kind of, you know, uh, permissions to open or create a pipeline over there at current position. Okay, so once I go over there, I can check my resource, and yeah, I, as you can see, we have not received any kind of content from this side because the YAML file does not have the path of my uh, particular repository and a location to my global Azure demo one. Okay, and so that's the reason. But still, we are going to open it and we will continue. You see, uh, it will show you. If there is nothing to show over there, it will give you a simple, uh, response that congratulations, your site is your new site is live now. It will be ready soon, so please check back later. But it won't because there is an error into the pipeline, and the pipeline edit workflow we can check over here. We will be opted to our Azure DevOps web page, and here we can check what was the issue. Okay, you see, this was the trigger issue, and the reason, most probably the reason would be that there is a parallelism into my, yeah, this is the reason. And I have submitted for this, but it will take around 2 to 3 days to validate because I have you know a DevOps project which is private, and due to which I won't be able to publish it until and unless I get this free parallelism grant. Okay, So once we go ahead with this, you can check a simple that, yeah, at last you have launched your website with the help of Azure DevOps, with the help of the pipelines. Okay. So this was all about how we can create and how we can launch a website or a web page with the help of Azure DevOps and with the help of your GitHub website, GitHub repository, sorry. Okay, so do try this game if you feel like. Feel free to clone it and feel free to, like, anything that you wanted to add over there. Create an issue and I will approve it